Cornell Green, and I am the Failure Guy. Welcome to the podcast. On this episode of the Failure Guy podcast, my guest is Valorie Hubbard of Actors Fast Track. Valorie, thank you for joining us, and welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Cornell. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, it is my pleasure, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming on a podcast called The Failure Guy. I look I look so forward to having a conversation with you today. So first of all, why don't you introduce yourself to our guests and viewers?
Hi, everyone. I'm Valorie Hubbard. I'm the CEO and founder of Actors Fast Track. I'm in the top 10% of working actors in the country. And Actors Fast Track has been around for 12 years. We help actors who are stuck get to the next level in their career using our 5-step system. We teach actors how to be business-minded thinking people. And our goal is to change the way actors do business. So we have clients all over the world, and that's what we do.
Okay, that's fascinating. So before we get into the meat of our conversation, tell us a little bit about yourself. First of all, yourself as an actor, and what led you from just being an actor to starting and founding Actors Fast Track.
Well, my father was a very successful entrepreneur. So, there's been tests out there that say entrepreneurship is genetic, and I believe that to be true because I definitely got that from my dad. So when I went to acting school many years ago, they told me in their business of acting class, which was sort of stupid, they told me that the way to get an acting career is to get an agent. That's it. An agent is a commission-based salesperson. So it would be like saying the way to get a restaurant is to hire a manager for your restaurant. I mean, so I got the agent. I was a good girl. I got the agent. I went to New York, and it just seemed like there was something off. I would ask my agent, like, what should I be doing? And he would say things to me like, take an acting class. Well, I had already done that for 4 years. I'd been to a top conservatory in the country, and it felt like I should be doing something else. And so I started to study business, and I actually hired a coach, and I learned that there were things that I could be doing, reaching out to my customers on a regular basis. So I started doing that, and I started getting work without my agent, really good work. And so then my friends started asking me, hey, can you help me do what you're doing? And so I started helping my friends, and then my friends are like, you should charge for this. So
Hmm.
in the 90s, I started my first business, and it was very, this is before computers and stuff, so it was very like sort of nickel and dime little side hustle. And then I moved to LA when I was 41, and again, people told me I made a big mistake doing that, but I put together I took my actions that I know how to take, and within 5 years, I was, booking everything. I mean, I've been on Castle Agents of S.H.E.I.L.D, How I Met Your Mother, Resident Evil Extinction, True Blood, American Horror Story, every Disney show, like on and on and on.
Oh, yeah, just
And
minor work, right?
yeah. And so then, I decided to start another business 12 years ago. And I guess, like anything I've done in my life, it was going to just be this little side thing. Well, no, it turned into this gigantic thing, and sort of overtook my life. But it's been, I mean, one coach said to me at one point, build a better business, build a better you, build a better business,
Mm.
build a better world. And that's the truest thing ever. I mean, it's been the hardest thing, but the most rewarding thing I've really ever done in my life. Building this business and having successes and failures.
Mm.
And learning actually more from the failures, but it's been a roller coaster for sure.
Right. Well, the thing I find fascinating, first of all, two things. That entrepreneurship might be genetic or inherited, and it's kind of interesting. My great grandmother was a sharecropper. Her daughter, my grandmother, was a multiple property owner. Her sons, my two uncles, were multiple business owners. My mother, after retiring from working personnel at a hospital, went into real estate and was an ordained evangelist, going into prisons, actually working with with women who are about to be repatriated, as they say, to get them to get their act together so they could, reconcile with their families and things of that nature. And here I am, since 2010, an entrepreneur, working by myself for myself. So that's kind of interesting. The second thing that struck me from your intro is that a lot of the things that you've done weren't intentional. Like, I'm going to start this business and it's going to be this, and I'm going to go for an IPO, and it's just like, here's a little thing on the side, and people said, oh, could I have some of that recipe? And the next thing you know, that ends up growing into an entire business and what you're doing now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think, if you listen to anyone like, Jeff Bezos, any of the great people that have like businesses that have, grown into big businesses, most of them don't really see the ultimate, like what they can't imagine what it's really going to be, right?
Right.
Until they're in it. And so, you know, um, that's been true for me. Like I didn't know what it
Yeah.
was going to turn
Yeah.
into.
People tend to sort of think you dream big and then you chase that big dream. It's like, no, you just keep grinding and you have ambition and you are open for the opportunities and you don't say no, but you don't imagine it's going to be, you're going to be having artists all over the world, actors all over the world. You're going to show them how to get past the miasma and the mishigas of the old-fashioned way of doing it and take control of their own careers. It's kind of interesting. I have a friend who is also in the acting business, and I took part of one of her workshops, or play shops as she calls them, and because I was there just to support her, and ended up coming up with an idea for a one-man piece that's entitled "None of This Was My Idea Anyway," which is an overview of all of the milestones in my life, because almost literally everything that I've done that was a life-changing event was not only not my idea, but I thought the person who proposed it to me was out of their freaking mind. And it ended up being the thing that I've done, the things that were the gold changers in my life. So it's just kind of ironic how life seems to work out like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. Um, it really is. I mean, it always starts with an idea, and then it grows into whatever. I think the most important thing that I've learned is, you just have to start, right?
Mm.
Like you have to take the one step. I mean, a lot of us stand at the base of the mountain, overwhelmed with the mountain, right? Oh my God, I have to go all the way there. But just start with one step, right? Take one step and go. And, because the fear that you're going to fail or the fear that you're going to fall, yeah, you probably are, right? Most likely you are.
Yes.
And so just get on with it, right? Like it's not, and, you know, I mean, I've been in really the last 2 years, well, since COVID, I've been in the really the most the last 2 years especially, I've been in the worst time ever in the
Mm.
last 12 years of my business.
Wow.
um and it's been very difficult and emotionally draining and spiritually draining and physically draining, but it's like I chose to soldier on,
Mm.
and get through because I I want to get to the other side of this, and I know that I'll be a better person for doing that.
Okay. Okay. Now, I guess that kind of, fortunately or unfortunately, segues into, you did say earlier that you've learned as much, if not more, from your failures as from your successes.
Yeah.
So I guess since this is a podcast called The Failure Guy, and I know because I know you well and I've known you for a number of years that you've had a lot of real experience. so, so we can sort of go from the top and what would you say are some of the seminal failures you've experienced that have sort of, I don't know, burnished the jewel, if you will, or taught you those tough life lessons?
Yeah, I think the biggest one has been around money. That's been
Mm.
like for me, I was my dad was a successful entrepreneur, and so the one area that I was spoiled in was finances. And
Mm.
I never like I never learned anything about money. And then I started a business that became a big business, and I ran smack into all of the bad money stories in my life. And it was like an onion. I had to um peel one layer at a time. I think if there's no way I could have like dealt with the whole shebang all at one time. It would just be too much. And I think the big part of the onion came off in the last year and a half. I have worked with several money coaches over the years, but I hired this company a year and a half ago that literally changed my life. And they were the ones that, and what I was doing, because I'm also noble, I was taking high, expensive money to make my payroll. And
Mm.
I caused a train wreck, right? And so I accumulated a huge amount of debt in my company.
Mm.
And then we had, COVID, and then we had this strike, we had the writer's strike, we had the actor's strike.
Ooh.
And, you know, um, the good news is like one of the biggest agencies in the business went out of business this week, and I'm still in business. So I'm
Mm.
like, I I made it past, like I'm more in
Yes.
business, right? Because the strike really, was awful,
Yeah.
right? And
I hadn't
yeah,
even thought of that. I mean, and again, I've known you for
yeah,
years, but it's like, good Lord, that must have been. I mean, and then coinciding with COVID and the aftermath of that, the
yeah.
double whammy. Holy cow.
Yeah, it was really a double whammy. And the year coming out of it, 22, was also the year I turned 60. So I was like
Mm.
in the south of France, in Palm Springs, and I was like celebrating my birthday, not really paying attention to the train wreck that was
Mm.
coming,
Okay.
right? And the whole year. I mean, it was a blast. I had a great time. But like but and then at the end of 22 is when I hired this company, and they looked at my numbers, they looked at my uh profit and loss sheet, they looked at my, and they're like, okay, what's going on here? And they started to pick apart what was happening. And last year I started taking action. I laid off, I actually let go of four major people in my company last year, which was really super
Mm.
difficult.
Yeah.
And I cut expenses, and I paid off $116,000 in debt in 23. And I'm on
Wow.
track to pay off 70,000 in 24. And I will be at 250 paying off debt in by mid 25, which is huge. Um, but it's really painful because the little girl that wants what she wants when she wants it and gets what she
Mm.
gets when she gets it has to be a has to be calmed down weekly.
Discipline. Yeah.
Yeah, because I want to do things in my business, and right now I can't until I get this debt paid off. And I mean, you know I I I have money coming in. I have clients, and that's great. But 75% of that is going towards debt.
Mm.
It goes down to 65% coming up. So,
Okay.
I'm chipping away at it, and fast too, so, and like, someone pointed out, well, in order to pay that much debt, you got to be making money. And that is something that I'm doing. And
Yeah.
so it's just
Facts.
it's just going to the man, not to
Yeah.
Valorie.
Yeah.
So,
Now, the interesting thing I'm hearing in this conversation, there's the presumption that people who grow up with and around money are more savvy about how to deal with money than people who don't. And from what I'm hearing in your case, that isn't always necessarily the case.
no, I absolutely not. I mean, I think that that's one place that we really falter in our education system is we don't teach people how to balance a checkbook. We don't teach people about money at all, right? And so,
Right.
I have learned so much. I mean, so much. I started investing. If someone really would have set me down, because like as an actor, we make chunks of money, right? So we'll make 40,000 on a Subway commercial, of which I did like, years ago. And if someone would have really explained compound interest to me and told me,
Mm,
really shoved in my head that, you need to save. So I'm really doing that with my clients now. Like, let's put away 10, whatever money you make, let's put away 10% and leave
right,
it alone and put it
right,
in a high interest savings account and be on with it. Because, now I'm paying the price for not doing that. Um, I mean, I did do some smart things in my life. I bought a house in the bottom of 2008 when everything crashed. I
mm,
bought, and then I sold it in 18. So I've done
ooh,
some good things
yeah,
in California. So I've able to at least have a little bit of a net wealth and a
right,
net worth, that's
right,
positive. Um, but like not enough. I mean, it's a crazy how much you need in this country
right.
to retire.
And you raise such an excellent point that the failure of the educational system, I mean, they teach us reading, writing, and arithmetic, they teach us math functions, but they don't teach us the practical
Mm-mm.
application of math. Like saying if your outgo exceeds your income, then your upkeep becomes your downfall. And I
Mhm.
mean, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, you don't really need any more complex. It doesn't take calculus to manage money. It's very simple. Anyone with an eighth grade knowledge of math can do it if you understand the practical applications. And it's interesting that you say this. I was, I spent a lot of time at night falling down the YouTube rabbit hole, and I came across a documentary about the late David Soul, Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah.
And I didn't know he was a successful musician before he even got the role of Starsky and Hutch. He had a character like a masked singer character on the Mike Douglas show, I think it was.
Mm.
And then afterwards he had that one hit, "Don't Give Up on Us, Baby." That was, and then he was touring Europe after that. He was all the sensation. When he died, he was living out of a storage unit because again, he just spent the money like water. He didn't invest it, and he didn't realize, what, like you said, with actors, it's feast or famine. Sometimes you are in the money, you're making it big, but you're not always going to make it like that. That's not a salary. That's a windfall, and then you better manage that because what do you do during the lean times? What if you're not the it person anymore? Suddenly you're getting all this stuff, and I mean, you have been successful because you've been a character actor, so
Yes.
you can do a lot of stuff, and like the stuff that actually. Could you please, because I know you kind of speed bump through all of that stuff, just for the our listeners and viewers, go through slowly your resume because you've done some very impressive stuff, and I want people to hear the stuff that you've done in your what do you call it, your
Yeah.
filmography, your
So,
discography.
Desperate Housewives, ER, uh, Castle, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, How I Met Your Mother, True Blood, Glee, Resident Evil Extinction, American Horror Story, Hannah Montana movie, video games, Dead Rising 2 that I can talk about that are out, Dead Rising 3 and Wolfenstein 2. Those are mocap. Lots of theater, important theater. Um, Tons of commercials and voiceovers. I was on pretty much every Disney show on the Disney TV network. That's my network.
So
I
like
have
one of the
mouse
Disney
ears.
repertory players.
Yeah, oh, totally. And they definitely have their repertory players. I totally am a Disney person. So yeah, and I'm sure I'm missing some other stuff, but
Yeah.
lots of Comedy Central shows and things like
Okay.
that. So and some talk shows like, as crazy characters like Conan O'Brien and Lopez Tonight and
Right.
things like that. So yeah.
Okay. So not for nothing, that's a pretty impressive resume, I gotta say. You know, and it's interesting that people think, well, my God, she's got to be hanging out with the A-listers and living in Malibu, and I guess
No.
that's not exactly the case, is it?
No, well, that's why we had a strike, and we really didn't, in my opinion, we didn't really get, AI is going to kill us as actors because they can, we didn't really deal with the AI issue like we should have dealt with it. And the other thing is like I do get residual checks because I did shows like on major networks, but the what we get for streaming platforms, Netflix,
Yeah,
Amazon, Hulu, it's not the same.
yeah,
And actors have always been the bottom of the barrel. They're the most gaslit profession in the world.
yeah,
They're kind of like the abused wife in the corner. And
yeah,
so basically what my vision is, I pick them up, brush them off, and then say, we're going to learn how to be a badass boss bitch right now. Right.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's hard for them because for them to be able to ask for what they want and stand in their power and not give it up, that's like huge because they are, it's like the abused wife. It's
yeah,
like when you know someone that's abused and you go, well, why doesn't she just leave him? Well, if you, that's hard because
yeah,
it's a deep and rooted mindset thing. And so, a lot of the work that I end up doing is like huge mindset adjustments um, before I can even get to the nuts and the bolts of it.
yeah. It's interesting. I was watching a podcast with I forget the gentleman's name who hosts the podcast. He played Lex Luthor, I believe, in the Smallville, and
Mm,
he was interviewing Katie Sackhoff, a Longmire,
yeah.
Battlestar Galactica reboot, and she was talking about how tough it is nowadays in the streaming because you're not doing 22 or 30 episodes of a show that's going to go into syndication. You might be doing 8 episodes of a streaming, and then not being in the business, I didn't realize, then they have a hold on you, which could be for as much as like a year and a half.
Yep.
And that's just like, so people think, well, why don't you just get another job? It's like, well, because I kind of have this contractual stipulation that not like they can forbid me to go somewhere, but nobody's really going to want to pick me up while I've got a contract that I got to hold on me. So this kind of shuts me down for more than a year. I'm not making any more money, and I'm not going to make any residuals off of that as if back in the day I did a television series. So people think,
Hmm.
well, look, these famous people in streaming, everybody's everywhere. No, no, no. The corporations are making that money. But as you're
Yep.
saying, the actual talent, the people without whom you don't have a show, they're the least compensated. And then
Yep.
with this actor strike, I could not believe the temerity of these producers. Oh,
Ugh.
forget people like you, bit players, character actors, background actors. How about come in? We'll pay you for a day. We will digitize you, and then you will never get paid again. But we will use your likeness. Are you kidding me?
Yep. Check this out. Video games. Video games make $1 billion opening weekend. A
Whew.
billion dollars. Actors make $1,000 a day, and that's it. So I was a lead in Dead Rising 3. I memorized a phone book, because when you do a video game, there's
Right.
each scene could go one of three
Multiple
to four
ways.
ways, right?
Right.
So, and they're all very similar. And so it's like a lot to memorize. And it's mocap. So it's how you're memorizing. It's not voiceover. You're
Right.
like in a suit and you're acting. And it's a lot
Right.
of work. It's very hard, right? And so I memorized a phone book. I made $16,000. That game made $1 billion.
People
Do
don't
you,
know.
yeah, and I'm a lead. I'm a lead. People
Right.
know my character, really, really well, and it's so frustrating to me because, you only have to, first of all, you only have to be an actor, a professional actor for about a year to be fully ensconced in the straitjacket of everything you're not supposed to do, right? There's this
Mm.
elusive rule book out there that they're like, well, that's against the rules. Like, really? Who says that? Like,
Right.
that's why my last book was called Rule Breaker, changing the way, because it's like that's what I teach actors to do is break the
Yes.
rules because I've been looking for a rule book for 40 years. It doesn't exist.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so they'll tell us what to do. It's so amazing to me. Like, it's like, actors believe that the agents run their business. I'll
Right.
never forget when I hired my a business coach. I was the first actor she'd ever met. She's like, explain something to me, Valorie. So you pay for everything, right? You pay for your acting school, your headshots, your reel, everything that comes with having to be an actor. I'm like, yes. And she goes, but you're not in charge of your business. I'm like, yeah, exactly. He's like, that makes no sense. I'm like, I know. Right. And so an agent will tell you that the producers, directors, and writers are their customers, not your
Mm,
customers. But they're actually the people that
right,
write the check that pay you. An agent is just an intermediary. They're just a
right,
commission-based salesperson.
right. They don't
So
get paid unless you get paid.
exactly. Right. And so, but these actors put these agents and people up on the pedestal, and then they're down here with no power, getting kicked around. Okay, I'm only going to make $1,000 a day, and you're not even going to pick me up at my house, and you might not feed me, but
Wow.
you're going to make $1 billion.
Right.
Right. And that's okay. Like,
It's
no,
absurd.
it's
You know,
absurd.
it's as you know, in what I do, I'm now getting into business coaching, and I say this a lot to entrepreneurs, and people because a lot of what I deal with are what I call accidental entrepreneurs, people who like me. You mentioned the subprime mortgage meltdown. That's how I got into entrepreneurship. I was a IT manager for an architectural design firm that had Steven Spielberg, Jerry Seinfeld, Yale University, W Hotel chain, United Nations as private clients. I used to joke, look, my employers are millionaires, their employers are billionaires. I won't get laid off unless the entire economy crashes. And then along came 2008. And not only did the entire economy crash, it was the real estate market. So when you are an architectural design firm that has A-list clients and that whole market crashes, good luck with that.
Yeah.
But I say to a lot of people because you hear this a lot. Oh, the immigrants are taking our jobs, and I'm like, first of all, what immigrants are taking your job? Because if you're talking about the Mexicans, they're not taking your white collar office job, my friend. Because you're not picking lettuce in the field or gutting chickens in a poultry factory. So they're not taking your jobs. Anyone who's taking your jobs, quote unquote, are the H-1B folks who are coming from India, Eastern Europe, and Europe. And even then, they didn't take your job because you never had a job to take. What happened was your employer chose not to hire you again and pay you a decent salary as an American worker and give you benefits. And they chose to either outsource the call centers and the tech work to, Yugoslavia or Philippines or India, or they chose to hire three people for the salary they were paying you. And let's get it straight. When a corporation hires an undocumented immigrant, it's not lost on them that they didn't get a social security number. Okay, they know they're hiring someone who's undocumented. So they're the ones who are giving your jobs away. The immigrants can't take a job that's not offered to them. Okay? So stop blaming the people who are coming from a place where much more disadvantaged than here and taking advantage. Like I say, because I used to work in construction in my musician days, and I said, you know what? I don't see any of y'all guys standing in the parking lots of Lowe's or Home Depot jumping in the back of someone's pickup truck to do sheetrock.
Nope.
Okay? So stop all this whining. But see, this is like you're saying, this is the gaslighting. They get us, the worker bees, to be mad at each other when
Yeah.
they're the ones who are screwing us over.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, in France, they figured that out.
Hmm.
That's why they cut off Marie Antoinette's head, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes,
let them eat
definitely.
cake, right? Like, it's
I
too
got your
bad we
cake
couldn't
right
figure
here,
that out in
baby.
this country.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is I found? It's that we have this perverse fantasy that we are going to become among the billionaire class. So most people's mindsets, even if they won't admit it to themselves, is I know the system's broken, but don't fix it until I get my slice of that pie. Then you can fix it. But here's the thing, it's never going to be fixed, and you're never going to get a slice. Okay? Forget about it. Forget about it. So if we don't come together and understand that the because it's simple math to me. The economy that works best for the broadest sector is the economy that works best. I don't mind that people have more money than me. But what I don't understand about the billionaires is do you want all of the money? Here's the thing money is a concept, it's not a thing. And it's only worth anything if it's in circulation. If you have all the money, then there's no money. Okay, because
Exactly.
remember what happened during the pandemic shutdown? Like I say to people, they didn't give out those stimulation checks because they cared so much about the average American. People stopped shopping and the money
Yep.
stopped circulating.
Yep.
Walmart does not have billions of dollars. Walmart has a billions of dollars of revenue. If they don't make billions of dollars of sales every year, if Jeff Bezos doesn't sell billions of dollars worth of stuff on Amazon, he's got nothing. He's got stock value. We saw this with Elon Musk. He didn't write a check for $44 billion dollars to buy Twitter. He took out a loan against the stock value of Tesla. Remember, he wanted to back out of that. And they said, okay, where's our $44 billion dollars? He's like, oh. And he had to buy Twitter. And now he's taken it from 44 billion dollars to under 9. So, financial genius? I don't think so.
No, no.
But talking about the internet, I noticed from my notes here that you mentioned, because full disclosure, folks, I have some pre-interview questions that I have my guests fill out on an intake form. We don't have any conversations before this because I like the conversation to be spontaneous, but I like to know a little bit. So you mentioned something about being bullied on social media, and
Yes. That
I
added to 23. That made 23 so pleasant.
wow. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I got on TikTok because I got on TikTok to make money, and I did make money. I hired a TikTok coach and I built my Actors Fast Track TikTok to nearly 13,000 followers. And I've gotten a lot of clients from it, and it's been great for me. But my message, as I said before, is controversial because I'm giving actors their power back, and the people in other positions don't like that. Um,
Ah,
and there's several people, and this is just general. There's people on social media that that their whole gig on social media is to talk about other people in a negative way, right?
right.
Like to hold up this person and say she doesn't know what she's talking about and stuff like this. So there was two specifically that came after me pretty hard. The first one, um and the crazy part is, like, she calls herself a casting director, but if you look at the show and you look at what she's done, she wasn't a casting director. She was an associate and an assistant. But as soon as she used the word casting director, all these little actors, because again, they have no power and they have no spine, so they show up and they're like to her, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so she started like stitching my videos and telling everyone how wrong I was, right? Was
Mm.
fine. Like, I fought her a little bit, and I found other people were fighting her. And actually one guy that I became friends with the other people that were fighting her. So that was really cool. One guy accused her of being a racist, which when I looked at what she was doing, it was absolutely true. She was going out,
Mm.
specifically, she was going after people of color in a bad way. And so and when I called her on that, oh my God, like people were like, how could you say that? I'm like, well, because like,
You mean because it's true?
because it's true. Um, but she knew, she was smart enough to know when to lay off, right? But then this other one
Mm.
came along that wasn't smart.
Oh.
And I was in London a year ago, and she came after me and she said something stupid. And so I was off getting fish and chips for my husband, who was asleep in the hotel room because we had just gotten in, we'd taken a red eye. And I stopped in a street in London and I did a quick TikTok about why she was wrong. And I was actually nice. I was like, I'm sure she does great content, but like this and this and this. Oh my God. You would have thought that I killed her children or something, right? Like, so she ended up emailing my agent, my talent agent, and
What?
telling my talent agent, he's been my agent for 15 years. So, he knows which side his
Yeah.
bread is buttered on. And he was like, so he called me while I was in London. He's like, I don't know much about social media, but this girl, this casting
Mm.
director emailed me, not called me, but emailed me and said, you're doing damaging content on social media. So that's interfering with my money. And so that's tortious interference in the law, right? When
Mm.
someone interferes with your money. So she did it
Okay.
again. I sent her a private message, and then she used that private message to use against me. And so I hired an attorney. We wrote her. We threatened to sue her for tortious interference. Um, And then she got some bad legal advice because she continued to talk about me without using my name. I'm like, oh my God, go talk to
Mm.
an attorney. You can't do that. Like, it's clear you're talking about me. She said things like I threatened her children. I didn't even know at that point that she had children.
Okay, so
Um,
that's libelous at the very least.
yeah, so I talked to my attorney last Memorial Day, and he said, you have a choice here. You can set her up, get someone to, call her and want to question her about me and get her on tape talking about
Mm.
you, or you can and that. So I thought about that, and then a really good friend of mine said, "You know what, Valerie, I think that you should probably pray to your higher power, ask her forgiveness, let it go, and see if you can get through it that way. Because, who wants to go down the path of lawsuits? I
Yeah.
personally don't, right?
Yeah.
And so I took that advice, I did that, and I let it go. I learned how to block, right?
Mm.
And I've just decided to block, to block these people. And but it really played a number on me. I was going through this letting go of employees,
Yeah.
and seeing like this train wreck that was happening in my company. And on top of it, then I had to deal with these bitches, right? And they were so awful, just awful people. And the worst part about it, I think for me really is especially the second one. It's they say things like, I'm just helping actors. It's like, no, you are you are continuing on the saga of what I have spent the last 12 years trying to solve,
Yeah.
right? To putting these actors in this place where they're in a straight jacket, and they can
Yeah.
only do it this way, your
Yeah.
way,
Just
because
keeping
you
them
know
under
more than everyone else.
right, keeping them under the gaslight, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and so they're like, I'm just helping actors. No, you're not. You're hurting them.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're helping them, then why are you destroying me? Why
Right.
are you coming after me?
Right.
And that just doesn't seem like smart, right? So anyway, I figured the one especially, she's gonna dig her own grave. I mean, if you
Yeah.
talk negative about people all of the time, you're gonna eventually that's gonna catch up with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not until you're president of the United States and like, but eventually
Yeah.
it
It's gonna hit
catches
the
up to
fan.
you. It
Yeah.
catches up to you, right? And
Yeah.
and karma's a bitch.
Yeah.
Ask
And
Taylor Swift. She sings about it.
and she's a billionaire. Thank you very
She's a
much.
billionaire.
Yes.
And
A lot.
all those people, look at what people did to her and still do,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You
you
know, and
know?
it's kind of just speaking of her. Obvious, I'm past the sell by date of being a Swiftie, but I love the conspiracy theory that, or at least the thing that the slam that's going by. I love this that she's only famous because her boyfriend was in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Or
That's
that
like,
she is an asset to put, that's
yeah, it's like,
being
guys, you
used by the
realize,
C. Yeah,
right,
it's
between the
insane.
two of them, which one's the billionaire?
Yeah,
Okay, which one is in charge of their own career and making their own, revenue, and which one is cashing a very expensive paycheck? Because people forget, even the $1 million, the Super Bowl winning, the NBA championship winning, they're employees.
they're
Someone's
employees.
writing them a check. Okay, Taylor Swift writes her own check, and I love what she did, where she's like, "Oh, you want to pull a Prince on me? You own my music. Guess what? You only own those mechanicals. I'm the publisher because I wrote it. I'm just gonna re-release every album that I've ever done. I own
Yeah,
it
she's
all.
my new hero. Like, I wasn't a Swiftie
Boom.
either. I wasn't a Swiftie either until last year when Midnights, I really loved Midnights. I love that album. I got into that. And then, I think we've all, a lot of us have lived through the romance of her and Travis, and it's been heartwarming to see her, get her comeuppance and her to be, and just like, I just loved
Yeah.
the summer of women,
Yes.
of Barbie, of Beyonce, of Taylor. It's like, of them, it was so good. And it's like, that's what you get
Yeah.
for ruling against women and taking away our rights. It's like,
Yeah.
we're going to come back, bitch, and we're going to take over this world. So,
It's kind of funny. So you're talking about Beyonce. I don't listen to a lot of contemporary music because I'm 63 years old and I'm a geezer and I listen to the stuff I grew up listening to. But I was listening to a station out here in New York, WFMU, which is probably one of the last free-form radio stations.
great
Literally, the
station.
DJs can just play whatever they want. There's no playlist coming from corporate central. And I was listening to this really cool country song. It's like, that's kind of, I'm not too much into country. This is cool. It was Beyonce.
I know.
And I'm like, hold up a second.
She's making those country rednecks' heads explode.
Because there's nothing about that song that sounds like Beyonce. I thought, oh,
No.
this is a cool contemporary country. I'm kind of digging that. Take me out on the dance floor, put a liquor in my cup. Come on, let's. And I'm just like, that's, and I was like, I'm like, say what now? So it's like, okay, and of course that I'm hearing is very controversial. Some people love it, some people loathe it. It's like, who is she and doing country, and it's just like, okay, but like they say, as long as they spell the name right, it's publicity and it gets it going there. But wanted to touch on something that I know because I know you and I know the person that you are. I remember, I mean, I knew you before this, but I remember really getting to know you and getting to know Actors Fast Track in the first virtual event that I worked with you. Believe that was in 2020. And I
Yes.
got to be honest, I got a very, very good friend that I've known for the past 30 years that's an actor. And I was saying to him a couple of days ago when I spoke to him, we talked like several times a week for hours. And I said, look, I got to be honest. Before I took part in that event, I kind of had the attitude a lot of people have about actors. Oh, well, actors, they're kind of like, kind of superficial, a little narcissistic. It's all look at me. And wow, I think you remember I was so profoundly moved by being a part of that community and seeing the depth and the intensity. I mean, it started out when you were asking people why they got into acting.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for the attention. It wasn't to stand up on stage. It wasn't for look at me. It was such heart-centered, truly motivated, wanting to change the world and touch the world, and people who come from a lot of broken backgrounds and you say actors are kind of like the abused wife. There's unfortunately a lot of abuse in the artistic community and actors in general. And so I know how much your community and your staff means to you. So to have laid people off, because I know that your employees weren't just a number and a name and a W-2 form for you. They were people that were close to you. And so that had to be very difficult to have to pink slip people that you knew well personally as well as professionally. So if you want to say something about that, because I know these are the tough
Yeah.
things that people
I
don't
mean, I
tend to think
love,
about.
yeah, I love my clients. I mean, I love actors. Sometimes I get frustrated with them because they're like, they're butterflies. They're sensitive, beautiful butterflies. They're creatives, right? And this isn't just actors. This is, dancers and musicians. And, we are creative individuals. And my opinion is that, the world would die if you didn't have the arts, if you didn't have create people that create beautiful
Yeah.
things. I just went to uh oh God, why can't I think of his name? I went to his exhibit. He's a famous black artist, and I went to his exhibit at the Whitney, and it was the second exhibit. Henry I went to his exhibit at the Whitney, and it was amazing.
Hmm.
And I cried all the way through it. And it was the last time I had cried through an art exhibit is when I had seen the full exhibit of Keith Haring's work at
Hmm.
in Paris in 2013. And that was such a relationship for me because I had because I had lived through that, like all of my friends dying of AIDS, and all of his paintings and how he was so ahead of his time. So when I went, like artists and dancers and actors, we're very creative. We're beautiful lights. We're lights, and we shine. And actors, especially because we are a mirror to society. I mean, I just saw, Ava DuVernay's movie Origins, which is, if everyone in the world should
Mm,
see that movie, it's genius. It's 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 showing back on the world what we've become, what we could be, what our dreams are, what our fantasies are. And we are the people that do that. We're the mirror to society
yes,
learning and growing and loving. And and that's really important, right?
yes,
But because of that, we're really sensitive because the craft of acting is is you using your soul
yes,
and your inside to shine that light. And so it's kind of like I have to shine that light. It makes me very sensitive and very open.
yes,
Um, and it is a rush to do that, but most actors don't do it for the money.
right.
Actors don't even think about.
Unfortunately,
I know most actors don't think about money. That's part of the problem. And they do it because they love it,
yes,
and it's a calling. And and some of them, have great whys, like as you heard. And so I
yes,
love my clients, and all of my people that worked for me are actors, and all of them
yes,
are actors that have utilized my systems to get a career. That's why they work for me. So
right.
yes, it was like me. I have all these puppies, and I had to take like four puppies and put them outside and say, you can't live here anymore.
Mm,
Right.
mm,
And because I can't feed you. Right. I can't feed you. So
yeah,
that's what it was like, taking a puppy and throwing it outside. That's
yes.
what it
That's
felt like.
wow, wow. That's a rather stark metaphor, and yeah, I know because I actually, this is the first I heard of it was inside this podcast, and full disclosure to those listening and watching, that's why I don't pre-interview my guests, because I like for some things to just be spontaneous in the moment and not have talked it through. And as I said, I know most of the people that work with you. I don't want to know who got laid off because that would probably break my heart. I don't want to be crying here in the podcast, but I do agree with you, and this is what struck me in that first event. I do agree with you that art is the soul of every culture. Yeah, I truly believe in that. In fact, the thing that a lot of people don't know, because in this country we don't like to talk about the war between the Americas, because as I say, it wasn't a war between states. It was a different nation. Those states seceded. They became a separate country so they could attack this one to perpetuate the practice of slavery. And one of the things that turned around the national mindset around slavery was the publication of the novel and the theatrical presentation of Uncle Tom's Cabin. Now, a lot of people, particularly in my culture, the black culture, we've taken Uncle Tom and we've used it as a pejorative, but actually, the most noble character in that story was Uncle Tom. And so, for white people, back in that period of time, to see that slaves were people and that the most humane character was the slave, and that most of the white characters were either sympathetic, but most of them were despicable, and that turned around the mindset. That pretty much was the match that launched the abolition movement in this country, that took such a groundswell and ultimately perpetuated into that war and the ultimate overthrowing of slavery as a practice in this country. Because art gives you, I heard someone, it was an actor, who described the movies as empathy machines. Because in a movie, you get to live someone's experience from their perspective. And you
Yep.
get to see what it is to be them, to feel them, to look like them. Like I think of the movie Guess Who's Coming to Dinner?
Yes.
And it was classic, first of all, that you had Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn as the couple, because that was Hollywood winking at their behind the scenes, affair. But also, Spencer Tracy back then was a man's man. It was American. Okay. So
Yeah.
for him to be the father, that was kind of like what Norman Lear did with Archie Bunker. It's like, I'm not
Yes.
going to take the archetype and make him the villain. I'm going to make him the protagonist. So all of those who feel, yeah, that's right, you tell him what. Okay, well, I guess if
Hmm.
if it's okay for Spence, then
It's
hmm,
okay for me. Uh,
right.
by the way, Henry Taylor is the artist that I saw
Okay,
at the Whitney. It
thank you,
amazing exhibit. So I just want to say
thank you, thank you,
because I was like,
and
what's his name?
yes,
Uh,
yes. And I notice here in the notes it says, because I also ask, what was it that from the failure that you experienced turned you around, was the takeaway from it? And I see in the notes you indicate that you have become a fantastic mediator, and you say that that has saved your life. And that's a rather profound statement and way to put it. So say something about that for our viewers and listeners.
well, you know, I'm not sure what that's a. Are you talking about meditation?
Well, no, no, no. In the notes where I asked about the significant failure, and you say getting into debt with your company by taking
Oh
expensive
yeah.
money,
Oh
you
my
talk
God.
about all of
Okay,
that.
yes, I know what I was saying. So I've gotten brave.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not someone that hides from my money. I'm someone that calls and talks to the companies and the thing that is like that I could share that's really important is that people will help you. People will listen. People will
Hmm.
help you work it out.
Hmm.
Like I sometimes I can't make these loan payments, right? And instead of running and hiding, it's so much easier just to talk to them
Ah.
and to work it out. And they always work it out, like it works out. Like, so, uh, it's the running and hiding, it always seems easier to run and hide and not deal with things.
Yes.
But ultimately, if you learn how to deal with things, whatever you're scared of dealing with, about having that conversation with whoever you're afraid to have the conversation with, but if you just take a deep breath and have the conversation, you will be a better person.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
That's fascinating.
and that's really changed my life. I learned how to negotiate. I learned how to, like you said, mediate. I learned how to do all of that with, um, especially in the financial world. I cut expenses. Like I said, I let go of people. I just recently let go of someone else, that was
Hmm.
like I have to like go down to bare bones, right?
Yeah.
I also learned how one of the biggest processes I've learned in 12 years is how to hire the right people, because that's another
Ooh.
place that I
Ooh.
failed a lot of
Hmm.
times. It's
Okay.
like, and it's really about, for me, like I just hired the best VA I've ever had, virtual assistant, for you guys that don't know what that means. The best virtual assistant I've ever had, who started with me in August. And the reason I got her is because I was really clear in my job posting.
Ah. Okay.
And that
Ask
took me a
specifically for
long time.
what you want.
Yeah. And boy, Heidi, one of the big things was I needed someone to be proactive, someone to think
Hmm.
ahead, someone to take action, that, or to really, because I'm someone that thinks really quickly and has things that I need to say. And a
Right.
lot of times over the years, over the 12 years, I had people that worked for me that I had to go back and explain again and explain again and explain.
Ah.
And this chick that I have now, who by the way is in the Philippines, speaking of hiring
Oh.
people that are in the Philippines, um, you know, she is like, she gets what I'm saying right off the bat. I never have to repeat myself. She takes action, and she goes beyond and takes the action,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that's what I needed. And I needed someone to
Yes.
come in and organize it. And oh my God, you know, he should. hearsay is like, if I'd have had her from the very beginning,
Wow.
because sometimes like I laid in bed this morning and thought about like I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have done that, like in my
Yeah.
business, not taking to an account that I built a business that's done 7 figures from the
Right.
poorest people on the planet. I, like not patting myself on the back for that, but saying what I,
Yes.
thinking about what I did wrong.
Right. Right. Well, a friend of mine back in my musician days had a poster on her refrigerator that's a person sitting on a stool with a very, very long list, and the caption read, "I will not shoot on myself today." And you raise a very excellent point, and it's a little personal, about how just talk to people instead of hiding. When I was at the beginning of my IT career, I went from being a broke ass musician to, making more, 3 times, 4 times more than I ever made in my life doing computers on Wall Street. And so after not quite 5 years, my sister came to me and asked me if I would co-sign a mortgage for her house. At the time, she was not yet divorced from her husband, the father of her kids. New York is a community property state. So if she had bought the house while she was still married to him, he would be liable for half of it. So I didn't think anyone was like, come on, I'm still thinking of myself as a broke ass musician. Go to the bank and like, sure, you go, boom, 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 sign here, 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 and here. It is with a mortgage, and boom, she got the mortgage. I co-signed it. She was going to pay it. But a couple so years into it comes a foreclosure notice. Now you're talking about these voluminous amounts of debt. Imagine me going from I've never, made more than $14,000 in my life to getting a piece of paper that says, "Where's our $210,000?"
Oh no.
And after nearly having a heart attack and going flip mode and berserker mode on my sister for about a week, sadly, it's sad to say, I read the entire document.
Mm.
And in 3 places, in bold print each time, it basically said, if you make any attempt at all to resolve this debt, forget this entire document. And then I went to my sister and I says, have you been talking to the mortgage company? And basically what she was doing was, I can't pay the mortgage this month, and hiding under the sheets. I was like,
Yeah.
pick up the phone and look. And this is like in the 90s, so they weren't trying. Mortgage companies were not trying to get in the real estate business. They just want you to pay the mortgage every month. And 60% of something is better than 0% of nothing. I was like, pay what you can pay. If you pay them nothing, then you're an indigent and they're going to come at you like gangbusters. If you send them what you have, like you said, they'll work it out with you.
They will. Like it's like the IRS, right?
Oh,
Like if you send them even $200, if you owe them $9,000 and you can't pay it
yes,
all at the same time, just send them something. If you
yes.
send them something every month, they'll leave you alone.
Yes, resolving my student loans back in the day. I remember distinctly because I was sitting on the perimeter of the lake in Central Park. I was on my cell phone, and I'm talking to the IRS, and they were so cordial and polite. I literally had to take the phone and like, this is the Internal Revenue Service I'm talking to, right? They were like customer service. So, Mr. Green, is there anything else we can help you with today? And
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, because the thing is the IRS, they put Capone in jail. They're going to kick down the door and drag you
Yeah.
off in shackles. And no, they're just like, hey, would you like to, what sort of a payment plan will work for you? How can we work this out? What can you do? And I'm like, well, I would have done this years ago if I knew. Because, I was like most people, I'm ignoring the things they're sending. They're saying, it's like, I can't pay it, I ain't got it. I can't pay it, I ain't got it. And finally, when I was working in tech, I was like, you know what, this is just stupid. Let me stop dodging the phone calls. Let me answer the phones. And okay, okay. Because, I think we're like little kids inside our head.
Yeah.
Oh, 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 I don't want mommy and daddy to be mad at me. And it's like, first of all, be a grown up. And like you
Yeah.
said, talk to people. They will work it out with you.
Yeah.
Stop hiding. I think that's really one of the most important lessons that we can have. I think
Oh,
that's
that's a huge lesson. Stop hiding, show up, um, get, again, back to Taylor,
yeah,
Taylor Swift, right? Like she shows up and, in the stadium, people were booing her. And she's like, and not like she's there to support her
Right,
boyfriend. That's it, right?
right.
Like, boo away, you
And again, here's
know?
here's the thing. All eyes on me. No one's paying attention to any of y'all, and there's tens of thousands of you here.
Yeah.
So I don't care because I know who I am, and I think that's a great takeaway of this whole conversation is just whether it's money, whether it's career, whether it's personal life, whether it's just the things that go bump in the night and hide in the closet. Stop hiding. Just
Yeah.
stop hiding. Stop hiding from yourself. And what I love that you teach your actors in Actors Fast Track. Stop hiding from your own greatness. Stop hiding from your power. You are the one in charge of your career. Nobody else. They all work for you. You don't like your agent? Fire him and get a new one. You don't like your manager? Fire him and get a new one.
Yeah.
And you can go directly to the casting agents, the writers, the directors, the producers, because you're the talent.
Right. And, if you're not getting bit in your life, then you're probably not really in your life, right? Like,
Yes,
if you're
indeed.
not getting, like, every time one of my clients gets bit for the first time, like, this is a great one. The other day, I had a client that went to a casting office to drop and called ahead of time and told them she was going to come, and she brought like them a box of chocolates and said, there to introduce herself. The little assistant got upset and called her agent and complained. Right. And so she was like freaked out. Right. She called me and she was freaked out. And I was like, first of all, congratulations. Because once you get bit, it tells me that you're taking action. Right.
Yes.
And like, let's stand back and look at this. Little assistant at a casting office. What do I know about that? Most likely he's a failed actor. So
Mm.
when an actor shows up and is doing something that he never had the balls to do,
which is
right?
which is
Or
why he's the little assistant and not out
yeah,
there.
and now he's working for casting and he probably never really wanted to do that, right? And he's a little assistant in an office. He's gonna, like, it's always the people that I learned this when I wrote a textbook. I wrote a textbook about the business of acting. And when you write a textbook in America, what happens is they send it out anonymously to all these professors around the country and they review your textbook. Well, I was expecting to get things by this chapter doesn't make any sense or this paragraph needs to be somewhere else. Like, those are like constructive
Right.
criticism. Oh no. Oh no,
Oh my
Cornell.
goodness.
When I got the reviews back, I was like, oh, you are a professor at this liberal arts university in Nebraska because you tried to be an actor and you failed at it. So
Mm.
why would you want to read a textbook about what you could have done differently?
Ooh, 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 there it is.
Because they were
There it is right
personal,
there.
they were personal assaults. They weren't criticism that I could do anything with. They were attacking my philosophy. They
Right,
were
right,
attacking my ideas. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to change my ideas because
right,
you,
right. There's no constructive criticism here.
yeah,
You're just slamming. And I have a saying that I came up with last year. Haters only hate what's great.
so true.
Okay, because it's nobody ever comes after the mediocre nobodies, the also rans,
No.
and they only come at people who are in the spotlight, who are on the rise. And as you say,
Yep.
it's usually envy, jealousy, just because you remind them of who they're not, of
Mhm.
who they
Yeah,
wanted to be.
that's exactly what happened to me on TikTok, right? And the one girl, she did a whole thing about me, about accusing me of being a guru, and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll take that. Thank you. Thank you. Yes,
Right.
I am a
Yeah,
guru."
it's like you
Uh,
realize that's not exactly an insult.
that's not an
Just saying.
insult. Yeah, are you upset that you're not a guru? Um,
There
what's
you
going
go.
on there? Right? Like, yeah, she was like the gurus of acting. Oh, thank you. Thank you for calling me a guru.
Yes, and I will take my bow. Thank you very much.
Right.
Well, Valerie, I just like to say thank you so much. We could go on and on forever, but
Oh, you
I
and me?
thank you
Oh,
for
forget it.
joining me. And of course, we have got to catch up privately. Thank you for the podcast, but I'm trying to keep these around an hour. We could go on for 3, 4. I'm not doing the Joe Rogan thing, you know. But thank you so much for joining me here. Thank you for sharing so honestly and amusingly. I always entertaining conversations with you, and I'm sure that the Failure Guy audience out there will, find great value in this. Now I'm going to put it up on the screen, but for those listening to this on audio, just let the folks out there know how they can get in touch with you in the world.
Sure. You can reach out to me, Valorie. My name is spelled Valorie at actorsfasttrack.com. Or you can just go to actorsfasttrack.com and reach out to us through our website. We have lots of freebies available for you. And we also have an upcoming event called
Woohoo!
Accelerate Live as well on March 3rd. But, I talk to actors all the time. I'd be happy to give you some time. And we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram. That's a really good place to find us. And reach out to us through our link tree as well. And we always have lots of events happening and freebies. And I have a podcast called The Wealthy Actor.
Yes, yes, indeed. Okay. And of course, I'm going to put all of that in the show notes
Great.
when this is launched. And I'm going to launch this before your event because obviously, what's the point of launching a podcast and having talking about an event that's already happened in the past? So once
Yeah.
again, Valorie, thank you so much for joining us here. And for those of you in the Failure Guy podcast world, thank you for listening. Tune in next week. And as always, remember, never quit. Keep running.